Hello and welcome everyone to another fun and exciting episode of Quick Album Reviews. I'm the blast from the past, CJ Metal, and today I'm blasting up some Revelations of Oblivion by Possessed. If you're not familiar with Possessed, they are considered to be the first death metal band. Their first demo was released in 1984 titled Death Metal, and it's considered by some to be the first death metal record. However, in the same year, just a few months later, the band Death released their own demo titled Death by Metal. So, very similar titles in terms of demo titles, so that's kind of weird. And some consider Death's Death by Metal demo to be the first true death metal record. Now, I'm not going to really go into detail about who is the first true death metal band. You can honestly argue for either side. As for me though, I don't really care who was the first death metal band. Music is music. It's not a race. So, if you like the band, it doesn't really matter. But what makes Possessed an interesting band, at least currently, is the fact that they haven't released an album since Beyond the Gates, which was released all the way back in 1986. Their new album, Revelations of Oblivion, actually wasn't released until this year of 2019, so Possessed hasn't made a full-length album in 33 years, yet we still complain about System of a Down and Tool taking forever to make an album. But this 33 years still mean that they can make good music. Think about everything that has happened over the past 33 years in the metal genre, or scene, whatever you want to call it. A lot has changed since the 80s. So you gotta make sure your music is up to par with these new acts and a changed scene as well. But you also got fans that have been waiting for 33 years to get a new album. And I'm going to be honest here, I didn't really care if Possessed released a new album, so my expectations weren't very high because, I guess I'm just not the biggest fan of them. So after waiting over 30 years, this album delivers some death thrash instrumental composition combined with some thrash style vocals. With that being said, you should already know what I'm going to say. It doesn't match. Shocking, right? I know. Not going to lie, on this album, we get some super fantastic death thrash guitar work, bass work, and drum work mixed with some excellent production quality. So far so good, yeah? And I honestly have really no complaints about the instrumental work on this album. I think it is next to none. It is excellent. It's fast, it's heavy, it's audible, it's headbanging. I honestly kind of wish this album was an instrumental only. The riffs, the solos, everything is just perfect. It's honestly really just the vocal style I have an issue with. Now, I have actually brought up this issue with some other albums such as Holy Diver by Dio and The Adversary by Thy Art Is Murder. The vocals and the instruments need to match, otherwise it just sounds very off-balanced. Very rarely does mixing two different styles together in terms of vocals and instruments actually works. This album is not an exception to that rule. As I've stated before, the band plays this death thrash style of music, but the vocalist Jeff Becerra, I think that's how you say it, or Jeff Becerra, I don't know, does thrash style vocals. But you may be asking yourself, but thrash is part of death thrash. How could this not work? Well, simple actually. Death thrash takes thrash metal and cranks it to death metal levels of brutality. However, regular thrash metal isn't really on the same level of brutality as death metal. So you have these two different levels of brutality competing against each other. It's like a great white shark versus a megalodon. Both creatures are badasses in their own right, but the meg is bigger and is on a whole nother level of badassery. And when you got two different styles competing against each other, they're not working together. You don't get a harmony amongst them. Instead, you get two different styles that you can obviously tell are two different styles. They don't cancel each other out. They don't become one or anything quite like that. And just a little side note I wanted to make. I felt like the lyrics on this album were forced. I know that's a weird thing to say, but they come across as trying too hard to sound evil, I guess. Maybe one of you have heard it too. Maybe one of you get what I mean, but I just kind of wanted to throw that in there. However, I will give props to the band for still being able to compete 30 years later in the metal scene. Man, they aren't the young metalheads they used to be, but they still showed that old guys can make some very good music. And it really is a shame though that the vocals really had to ruin this album for me, at least. And I know a lot of people will disagree with me and say I'm wrong, and you know what? That's fine. I mean, if you think this album is the bee's knees, good for you. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just here to share my opinion with you all. You know, when you throw yourself out there like I do with all these album reviews, you're going to encounter some resistance. You know, I expect backlash for saying this next sentence. This album gets a 7.5 out of 10 for me. If you want to comment down below how wrong I am, that's fine with me. I mean, it's not going to change my opinion, honestly. Music is subjective as all hell. I mean, what you consider good may not be the same as good to someone else, so have at it. Now, I personally think if the vocals had been more death metal centered, this album actually would have been a lot more balanced and therefore a lot better, at least to me. Again, this whole review is just my opinion. If you don't like it, that's fine. But I'm going to wrap it up there. Anyways, hope you're all having a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure you tell a friend to like and subscribe as well. Alright, everyone. Have a good day.